My father and his entitled wife, Cynthia, tried to force me from my late mother's inherited house after their wedding. Okay, Reddit, I need some perspective here because my head is absolutely spinning right now. I am Wayne, 28 male. My dad, Douglas, is 56 male, and his new wife, Cynthia, is 48 female. This whole mess revolves around the house I grew up in, the house my mom left solely to me in her will before she passed away from cancer 3 years ago, back in 2021. A little background first. My mom, Anna, was my everything. She was the kindest, most wonderful person you could ever meet. Her battle with cancer was brutal, and losing her shattered my world. We lived in this house, a modest but lovely 3-bedroom place in a nice suburban neighborhood, since I was 5 years old. Every corner holds a memory of her. Her gardening tools still in the shed, the kitchen where she taught me to bake terrible cookies as a kid, the living room where we watched countless movies. She put so much love into this place. Before she passed, she made it incredibly clear, both verbally and legally, that she wanted the house to be mine and mine alone. She had paid it off years ago, so it came to me free and clear. Her reasoning was that she wanted me to always have a stable place, a foundation, something that was truly mine, especially since I was just starting my career and wasn't making a ton of money yet. My dad, Douglas, was aware of this, fully aware. They had been married for almost 30 years, and while they had their ups and downs like any couple, I always thought they had a solid partnership. Mom handled most of the finances, and she was always the more sentimental one about the house. Dad seemed okay with her decision at the time, or at least he didn't voice any objections to me or her lawyer. Dad grieved, of course, but honestly, he seemed to bounce back faster than I expected. About a year after Mom died, late 2022, he started dating Cynthia. I didn't know her well. She was apparently an old acquaintance he reconnected with. She seemed nice enough on the surface, a bit flashy maybe, always perfectly put together, but I figured Dad deserved some happiness. They dated for about a year, and then earlier this year, around February 2024, they announced their engagement. The wedding was planned relatively quickly for this past May. I was living in the house, my house, during this time. I had spent the last couple of years slowly sorting through Mom's things, making small repairs, and just generally maintaining the place while grieving in my own space. It was emotionally taxing but also healing in a way. I work a hybrid schedule, so being able to work from home, there was a huge blessing. Dad still lived in the apartment he had moved into shortly after Mom's passing, a place he said was easier for him to manage on his own. Cynthia had her own condo across town. Leading up to the wedding, things were cordial. Cynthia was polite if a little distant. Dad seemed happy, genuinely happy, which was good to see. There were a few awkward moments where Cynthia would make comments about the house during visits, like, "Oh, this wallpaper is so dated," or "You really should update these appliances, Wayne." I usually just brushed it off, thinking she was just making conversation or had strong opinions on decor. I never imagined it was anything more sinister. Dad would usually just chuckle or change the subject. The wedding itself was a nice affair, held at a local venue. I was there, put on a brave face, wished them well. I admit it was strange seeing Dad marry someone else, but I tried to be supportive. Everything seemed fine. Then came the day after the wedding. Dad called me. He sounded unusually cheerful, almost manic. He said, "Hey Wayne, Cynthia and I have been talking, and we have a wonderful idea." I asked what it was. He then proceeded to tell me that since they were now married, it made sense for them to move into the house. My house. He framed it as a way for us all to be closer, for them to help me maintain the property, which I was doing just fine, by the way, and for them to save money instead of maintaining 2 separate residences plus Cynthia's condo, which she planned to sell. I was stunned into silence for a moment. I eventually managed to stammer out something like, "Dad, Mom left the house to me. It is my house." He replied, I know, son, but think about it. It is a big house for just one person. We could all live there together like a proper family. Cynthia loves the place. She has so many ideas for renovations. It would be good for all of us." He emphasized how much money they would save and how it was the practical, logical thing to do. Cynthia apparently got on the extension because suddenly her voice, much less cheerful and much more demanding, cut in. She said, "Wayne, your father and I are married now. This house is perfect for us to start our new life together. It is frankly selfish for you to keep it all to yourself when you could easily get a small apartment. We need the space more than you do." She then started talking about turning my current home office, which used to be Mom's craft room, into a yoga studio for herself, and converting the guest room into a master suite with an expanded bathroom. She spoke as if it was already a done deal. I felt a surge of anger mixed with disbelief. I told them, absolutely not. This is my home, the one Mom wanted me to have. I'm not moving out and you are not moving in. End of discussion. I reminded Dad about Mom's wishes about the will. He tried to backtrack a little, saying maybe I misunderstood. They weren't kicking me out, just suggesting we all live together. But Cynthia wasn't having it. She started raising her voice, telling me I was being disrespectful and ungrateful. She said Douglas deserves to live in this house too. He spent years here with your mother. It is partly his, morally speaking. That argument ended with me hanging up, shaking with anger and hurt. How could Dad even suggest this? And Cynthia, who I barely knew, acting like she had any right to my mother's home. The entitlement was breathtaking. I thought maybe they would cool off, realize how outrageous they were being. I was wrong. So wrong. The next few days were a barrage of calls and texts. Dad tried the guilt trip approach. We are family, Wayne. Your mother would want us to be together and support each other. Don't you want me to be happy in my new marriage? Cynthia, on the other hand, went straight for intimidation. She texted me things like, you need to be reasonable about this, or we will have to explore our options. The house is rightfully Douglas's in spirit. You're being incredibly selfish and childish. Then, things escalated. Last weekend, I came home from grabbing groceries to find Dad and Cynthia on my front porch. They had a toolbox with them. Dad looked sheepish, but Cynthia looked furious. I asked them what they were doing here. Cynthia stepped forward and said we came to discuss this like adults, and maybe start planning some necessary updates. Dad mumbled something about needing to check the fuse box. I immediately knew they were up to something more. I told them they needed to leave. Now, Cynthia scoffed. She said, this is ridiculous, Wayne. We are trying to help you. This house needs work and we are willing to invest in it. You should be grateful. Let us in so we can talk properly. I stood my ground, blocking the doorway. I repeated that they needed to leave my property immediately or I would call the police. Dad finally seemed to realize this was going too far and started pulling Cynthia away, apologizing awkwardly. Cynthia shot me a look full of venom and muttered something like, you will regret this, as they walked back to their car. After they left, I checked my locks, my windows, everything. I felt violated and deeply unsettled. That night I could barely sleep. The audacity of them just showing up, planning to barge in and start making changes to my home. My mother's home. The next day I got a call from an unknown number. It was a lawyer. He introduced himself as representing Mr. Douglas and Mrs. Cynthia last name. He stated that his clients believed they had a claim to residency in the property based on Douglas's long-term previous occupancy and his marriage to the new Mrs. He suggested I cooperate and allow them to move in to avoid costly legal proceedings where they would argue for some form of constructive trust or equitable share based on Dad's history there. He mentioned Dad contributing to mortgage payments decades ago, even though Mom had paid it off entirely long before she passed, using her own inheritance from her parents. I was floored. They actually lawyered up over my dead mother's explicit wish. I couldn't believe Dad would go this far, though I suspected Cynthia was the driving force. I told the lawyer politely but firmly that the house was legally mine, bequeathed solely to me in a valid will, and that his clients were not welcome on the property. I told him any further communication should go through my own legal counsel, whose information I would provide. Of course, I didn't actually have a lawyer yet, but that call spurred me into action. I spent the rest of the day researching property and inheritance lawyers in my area. I found one with great reviews who specialized in estate disputes and booked a consultation for the next day. Meeting with my lawyer, Sarah, was a huge relief. I explained the whole situation, showed her Mom's will, the deed to the house in my name, and recounted the events of the past week, including the lawyer's call. Sarah was amazing. She listened patiently, took notes, and then assured me that based on what I told her and the documents, their case was extremely weak, practically non-existent. The will was clear, the house was legally mine, and Dad had no claim just because he used to live there or paid some bills 30 years ago, especially since Mom paid it off with her own separate funds. His marriage to Cynthia gave her absolutely zero rights to my inherited property. She called their lawyers' claims bluster and intimidation tactics. Sarah drafted a very strongly worded cease and desist letter to their lawyer, stating that I was the sole legal owner, that his clients had no rights to the property, that they were forbidden from entering the property or contacting me directly, and that any further harassment would result in me seeking a restraining order and pursuing legal action for harassment. She sent it via certified mail that same day. Since Sarah sent the letter a few days ago, the calls and texts have stopped. Their lawyer hasn't responded yet. It is quiet, almost too quiet. I feel a bit safer knowing I have legal backing, but the emotional toll is immense. My relationship with my dad feels completely fractured. How could he betray my mom's memory and my trust like this? Was he always this susceptible to manipulation, or has Cynthia completely changed him? Or maybe this selfish streak was always there, hidden beneath the surface. I walk around the house, mom's house, my house, and just feel this heavy weight. The joy and comfort it used to bring are tainted by this conflict. I look at her pictures, and I feel like I am letting her down somehow, even though I know I am fighting for what she wanted. Cynthia's words about me being selfish echo in my head, even though I know logically that I am not the selfish one here. They are the ones trying to take something that doesn't belong to them, something deeply personal and meaningful to me. Did I mention that Cynthia apparently sold her condo very quickly right after the wedding? Like, suspiciously quickly. It makes me think this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment idea they had after getting married. It feels like this was their plan all along. Maybe she only married Dad thinking she'd get access to this house. The thought makes me sick. Dad isn't wealthy, his retirement is okay, but not extravagant. Mom's main asset was this paid-off house. It feels like Cynthia saw it as part of a marriage package deal. I've barely spoken to Dad since the confrontation on the porch. He sent one text saying, "We need to talk, Wayne, this has all been a misunderstanding." I haven't replied. I don't know what to say. How can this be a misunderstanding? They literally hired a lawyer to try and force their way into my home. Some friends know bits and pieces, and they are all firmly on my side, telling me Dad and Cynthia are being unbelievable assholes. I changed some minor details here for privacy, just in case anyone I know stumbles across this, but the core events are all true. So Reddit, here is the thing. Am I the asshole for refusing to even consider letting my dad and his new wife move into the house my mom left me? AITAH for cutting contact and lawyering up immediately. I feel guilty about the rift with my dad, but I also feel furious and protective of my mom's legacy and my home. What would you do? Update 1. Wow, okay. I did not expect this post to get so much attention. Thank you all so much for the overwhelming support and validation. Reading your comments and similar stories has honestly made me feel less crazy and alone in this situation. So many of you confirmed what my lawyer said. Their legal claim is basically non-existent, and this is pure entitlement and attempted bullying. And yes, many of you clocked Cynthia as a gold digger immediately, which unfortunately aligns with my growing suspicions. A few things have happened since I first posted. First, my lawyer, Sarah, received a response from Dad and Cynthia's lawyer. It was much less aggressive than their initial phone call. Basically, it acknowledged receipt of our letter and stated they were advising their clients on their position. Sarah interprets this as them knowing they don't have a legal leg to stand on, but likely Cynthia is refusing to back down easily. No further legal threats were made in the letter, which is a good sign, I guess. Sarah is confident they won't actually file anything, as it would be a waste of their money and likely get thrown out. Second, the quiet from Dad didn't last long. A couple of days after my original post, he showed up at the house. Alone this time, thankfully. I saw him through the peephole and hesitated, but eventually opened the door, leaving the chain lock on. He looked terrible. Tired, stressed, older than his 56 years. He started by apologizing, saying things had gotten completely out of hand. He said Cynthia was just very enthusiastic about starting their life together and saw the house as the perfect place. He tried to downplay the lawyer thing, saying it was just Cynthia being overly cautious and wanting to understand options, not a real threat. I didn't buy it for a second. I asked him straight up, "Dad, did you really think it was okay to try and take Mom's house from me? Did you support Cynthia calling a lawyer?" He got defensive then. He said it wasn't about taking it, it was about sharing. He claimed Mom would have wanted him to be happy and secure too. He actually said, "She loved me too, Wayne. Don't I deserve to live in the house I shared with her for decades?" That broke something in me. I replied, "Mom made her wishes crystal clear in a legally binding will, Dad. She left the house to me. Because she wanted me to have security. She knew you had your own retirement and could manage. Trying to twist her intentions now to suit Cynthia's desires is disgusting. And no, you do not deserve to live here just because you used to." Not when it means kicking me out or forcing me to live with the woman who is actively trying to undermine Mom's last wishes. He flinched. He tried to argue more, saying Cynthia wasn't that bad, that I was misunderstanding her intentions. He pleaded with me to just meet with them, talk it through calmly. I refused. I told him through the chain door that until he and Cynthia formally dropped any claim or intention regarding my house, and until Cynthia personally apologized for her behavior and her threats, there was nothing to talk about. I told him I loved him, but I couldn't trust him right now, and his loyalty seemed to lie entirely with Cynthia, not with his own son or his late wife's memory. I told him not to come back unannounced and closed the door. It was one of the hardest things I have ever done. Seeing the hurt in his eyes killed me, but the anger and betrayal were stronger. Since then, silence again. I feel awful, but also strangely resolved. Many of you advised changing the locks and installing security cameras, which I did immediately after the lawyer call, even before Dad showed up. Best decision ever. It gives me peace of mind knowing they can't just try to let themselves in. Sarah is keeping an eye on things legally, but she thinks they might just fade away, realizing they can't win. The bigger issue now is the wreckage of my relationship with my dad. I don't know if that can be repaired, especially if he stays with Cynthia. It feels like he made his choice, and he didn't choose me or Mom's memory. Thanks again for all the advice and support. It's helped more than you know. I'll post another update if there are any major developments. Update 2. Hello again, Reddit. It has been a few months since my last update and things have definitely settled. I wanted to close the loop for everyone who offered support and advice. You guys were incredible, seriously. First, the legal front. As Sarah predicted, Dad and Cynthia completely backed off after that last interaction at my door, and probably after their lawyer gave them the bad news. Sarah received official confirmation from their lawyer about 2 months ago, stating that his clients would not be pursuing any claim regarding the property. They basically folded. Hearing that was like a massive weight lifting off my chest. The house is secure. It's mine unequivocally, just as Mom intended. Now, for the personal drama update, which is probably what most of you are curious about. My relationship with Dad remained non-existent for about 6 weeks after I turned him away at the door. No calls, no texts, nothing. Honestly, the silence was both a relief and a source of sadness. Then one afternoon, I got a long email from him. It wasn't full of excuses or justifications this time. It was just sad. He apologized profusely for his behavior, for letting Cynthia influence him, for betraying my trust and disrespecting Mom's wishes. He admitted he got caught up in the new marriage and Cynthia's plans, and that he deeply regretted the pain he caused me. He said he understood if I couldn't forgive him, but hoped that someday we could rebuild our relationship. He explicitly stated that he and Cynthia were looking for their own place and would never bring up the house issue again. I didn't reply immediately. I needed time to process. Was this genuine remorse, or just him realizing he'd lost and trying to salvage things? A part of me is still wary. However, a few weeks after the email he called, I actually answered this time. We had a very awkward, hesitant conversation. He sounded contrite. He mentioned that things with Cynthia had been strained since the house debacle. Apparently, my refusal to budge and the legal smackdown caused a lot of tension between them. He didn't go into details, and I didn't push, but he hinted that Cynthia wasn't happy that her plan for a free, large house fell through. He said they were renting a small apartment together for now. He asked if he could see me, maybe grab coffee somewhere neutral. I agreed to meet him last week. It was tense, but okay. He apologized again, face to face this time. He seemed sincere. He acknowledged how badly he'd messed up and how much pressure Cynthia had put on him, but he took responsibility for his own choices and actions. He didn't try to defend her. We didn't exactly hug it out, but it felt like a small step towards potential reconciliation. I told him it would take time for me to trust him again, and he said he understood and would respect my boundaries. He also mentioned, almost as an aside, that Cynthia had been complaining constantly about their smaller apartment and finances, which maybe suggests her motivations were exactly what many of you suspected. As for Cynthia, I have had zero contact with her, and I intend to keep it that way. Dad didn't push for me to interact with her, which I appreciate. If my relationship with Dad does slowly repair, she will not be a part of it as far as I am concerned. He seems to be realizing who he married, but that's his journey to navigate now. So where do things stand? The house is safe and legally mine, free from any external threats. I've been slowly continuing my updates. making it feel more like my own space while preserving Mom's memory. I changed the locks again just for good measure, and the security system is active. My relationship with Dad is tentative, very fragile, but maybe not completely broken. We are taking baby steps. Cynthia is thankfully out of my direct orbit. Ultimately, I stood my ground, protected my inheritance and my mother's wishes, and came out the other side. It was stressful and emotionally draining, but necessary. I couldn't have done it without the support of my friends, my amazing lawyer Sarah, and honestly, all of you here on Reddit providing clarity and encouragement. So that's the end of the saga, for now at least. I'm focusing on healing, enjoying my home in peace, and figuring out the future with my dad. It's a positive outcome for me, all things considered. Thank you all again. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.